Losses, unlike anything we'd ever experienced before as a country, were not uncommon during the Civil War. From every county in every state, they would summon the men from that area, and they'd form companies of men who knew each other intimately. Before battle, each company would form a line. And you'd be standing next to your cousin and your uncle, and then 3 men down from that is your neighbor, and just beyond him is your father. You all faced this withering fire, and yet you knew you couldn't drop down and burrow in, you couldn't retreat. You were surrounded by men who assumed you wouldn't, and if you did, you could never go home again. So that line would move forward, and that line never wavered. The Army doesn't form regiments that way anymore, and I'll tell you why. The men of the 1st Minnesota Regiment, on the 2nd of July in 1862, in 15 minutes of that battle, most of the men of every generation from that part of the state got wiped out. They lost all their men, and that's why they don't form regiments that way anymore.
Hey, how are you?
Very good.
Come on in.
Good. Man, well,
Yeah?
a long day.
Oh my gosh, so you're already cued in?
Yeah.
We've been working on this for a long time. It's kind of amazing how Liz grabs us raw,
Yeah,
non-dancer
yeah.
material.
She can draw it out, can't she? She's pretty amazing.
Yeah. You're doing things before you know, really to be nervous or to be awkward or if it is awkward, no one seems to
Or if it's awkward, we like it.
point it out. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Like you said. What was that? Something?
Maybe awkward.
Oh, yeah.
That's just showing you that is possible.
Yeah,
Works
yeah.
out. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to having us all, dinner tonight, just to
Yes.
sort of chat and then rehearse tomorrow. What time should we do dinner?
I'm hungry.
Say
Then
6.
6.
Is
6
that
o'clock
all right with
downstairs.
you?
Yeah.
Well, let's organize that.
Oh, yeah? Oh, man,
right.
I'm gonna have to work.
Very nice.
Gonna get some shit.
Well, we look good. Yeah.
Coming.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sit here.
All right. That's good.
I think I'm.
All right.
This looks nice.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
Well,
So now, everybody to a great 3 days. Beautiful work together.
Yeah. Finally.
That's good. Good.
I find working on this piece, one part that's kind of fulfilling about it is the opportunity to kind of live with my dad and to just reflect back over the stories or the military, or even my grandfather, who, I mean, the story goes that he left Russia because he didn't want to be conscripted. And, Well, who has military in their family background? I mean, I think we all do, don't we?
Yeah.
Like tomorrow,
Yeah.
talk about yours.
Well, my father and all 3 of his brothers served. So his mother had 4 boys in 4 different branches of the service.
My
And they did do that. They did give her that, so that there was one in each, so
Really?
that they wouldn't all be, in the same battle.
Yeah, my grandfather had 4 brothers. They were all deployed, so all 5 of them were gone at the same time. 3 of them were shot. They all survived.
Well, my father served in the Korean War. He was in the Air Force. He was in the Air Force for 25 years. Wow. He all he would say is that he served in the Korean War, and it was really important to him. But he wouldn't. We have no more information than that. He didn't care to share anything else about it. He just wouldn't share anything else about it. But so that's all I know really
Did
about.
you move around a lot? Because
Yeah,
of the
we were in the Air
bases?
Force. We moved around quite a bit. Both my brothers, I'm the youngest of three, and both my older brothers went into the military right after high school.
What about you, Josh? Tell a little bit about.
My father was an F-4 pilot, and then my grandfather served in Northern Africa in World War II in the Army. So it was in my blood, and I believed in it. I just never thought as a kid I would do it. Like, I never thought of that route. My father had always told me he did it so I wouldn't have to. So I always respected that, but then I decided that I wanted the same for my children, that I would do it so they wouldn't feel they'd have to serve. So I joined the Marine Corps later in life. I was 27, so I was old. Considered old by many men that I served next to, who told me I was old. You know, I knew I wanted to be a reservist. I knew I wanted to be infantry. Like, I just went in there and said, this is what I want to do. This is, sign me up. I know I want to go. And they did. And unfortunately, I did that and then told my parents like 2 weeks later. It's a hard conversation to do.
And how did that come about?
My sister has been in this world her whole life. My sister was, I sat at many a dance recital and in the back of some, place where they were doing dance in the other half of this apartment, just the dance world my whole life.
And when I called her, we were discussing a residency for Healing Wars, and I told her what it was about, and then she mentioned Josh. And at that time, I felt like the piece was cast and finished, and I'm not finished, but like I had but I reopened it up to get on the phone first with Josh. And it was a very interesting first conversation.
It was.
It was really interesting.
It went a million different directions.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to deliver
There's a
you.
folder.
I'm delivering you a few things. One is, the first thing is, this is the sequence.
Good old-fashioned paper. I like that.
The sequence. And there's one, now, Josh, it is going to be meaningless to you. For the rest of you, you will be familiar with this because we had versions of it.
Okay.
I tried writing up about everybody's characters, kind of, a little bit about them. It says, Josh is Josh.
Yes. So easy to capture.
He is straightforward, brave, and funny. So he is Bill's amiable sidekick.
It's a very curious authorship in Liz's work. She has an ability to not fear inviting people to bring in material. I mean, that basically is the raw material that she uses to build from. So she expects it, and she selects people who are not just interested in being dancers waiting to be told what to do. They are all people who want to contribute some ideas and thoughts, and Liz's nature, is that to accept that and work it in.
The preparation is something that comes from a lot of different directions, and picking and choosing what I think is important to me. And therefore, if it's important to me, then I think it will read with the rest of the piece.
I might take an essence of what I've read about certain aspects of how they lived or what they went through to sort of play with in my mind a little bit and actually let it physically transform my body. So I guess I'm playing more with essence than with character.
Oh, wow.
We did some better versions of it.
But it leads to something really, I think that can work. Good. It's a challenging idea to think for a minute that all wars are theme and variation. I do happen to believe that. I do happen to think they will always exist. I don't
and that each generation comes upon them and finds one's place in relationship to it. It's a little hard to do that with the American Civil War. You want to make the American Civil War special. You want to say, no, it's not like anything else ever. And this piece is a challenge to that idea. It's not saying that that's not true, but it's saying, by the way people function within war, well, those functions may actually be similar.
All right, start on the right foot. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. Extra 1.
There's a lot of ways in which we get knowledge in the world, and a lot of it is from parables. Stories get told, and when you hear stories that get passed down from people you know, that has resonance to them, and then you learn the parable, and then it has resonance for you that's different.
Getting clearer.
Mm-hmm. Getting there.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's just do it again.
Good.
You cool, JB?
I'm good.
All right.
Thank you.
So we'd gotten up pretty early that morning. I mean, probably set in the alleyways before, the sun even rose. And I remember stopping vehicles, surrounding them, getting them out, going through their stuff. And we had gone through the market that day, and then we needed to turn around to go meet up with the rest of our guys. And I remember where we were on the road, and then getting ready to turn around over the median, and then nothing. I don't remember a thing. They had placed a roadside bomb. The blast flipped the vehicle. It killed my sergeant and my radio operator. The power of the impact shattered my jaw. 27 pins in the hip. I broke my acetabular, so they rebuilt my hip. Broke my pelvis in half, so they put a 6-inch screw in that. A lot of internal injuries from, a lot of bruising and swelling. Amputation of both the legs above the knee. Severe traumatic brain injury from being in a coma. PTSD, and jaw shattered. My nose was broke. Both my wrists had breaks in it, and 4 fingers were broken and put pins and screws in my fingers. So it was and then there's a trach in my throat too, which was an obstacle all by itself. Not just, getting past the broken jaw, but dealing with the breathing and talking and that aspect of the whole thing.
The button releases it.
Yeah, just lets the air back in, and then
And that, I don't know why, before I came here, I was thinking about your legs.
it's pretty amazing. I've been very happy and blessed with the technology that they've come along with.
And these cups that are here are just there for the
suction to
whenever
add to the
once
suction. So when my leg fits in, it doesn't hit the bottom. All the weight's surrounding here and not on the end of my socket.
Does the fatigue mostly happen in?
Yeah,
in your
it's
legs,
not.
or?
It's not even. It's just like It's just like I explain it to, if you've been standing, the soreness in your feet.
Oh,
Like just
yeah.
when you take your shoes off and it just feels good, and it's just they ache. That's how my legs feel when I take these off. They ache, but there's not a lot of pain. They're just tired.
Let's see if there are ways we can make some of these connections. I don't know if you're up for this,
You tell me.
Josh, but there was a point where you had your leg and you were like going like this with the leg, and it made me think if you're willing to let Bill have one of your legs. So like, for just a minute, if you take a leg, and here, Bill, you take a leg. Let's say we have a 3-minute conversation, and if you, if
Like
it's
even
Anthropomorphism.
like
so
bend
that
up,
kind of a move, that kind of a
this.
move. I think if you bring an up and over kind of move, it just like, just arbitrarily, if you each find 6.
Okay.
And then we'll just
Go from
put them, we'll worry later what they are, but,
So the one thing you can't do is like a can thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then maybe we can do a little ding 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 ding.
my larger idea is that we spend enormous energy not thinking about these things. What happens to the bodies, the actual physical body, and where does it go, or who cares about it? And then that is both true in life and in death. Who's caring about that body? Who's absorbing the damages that war make? What happens afterwards?
And then back up. And then I liked when you stuck it out and did the kneeling.
Yeah.
So, Bill, why don't we hear, can you do the part right after the amputation scene with George?
Boom, 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 boom. And then music starts, and then the wonderful dream that pain has been taken away from us has become a reality. Pain, the highest consciousness of our earthly existence. Pain, the most distinct sensation of the imperfection of the human body. Pain must now bow before the power of the human mind, before the power of ether vapor.
Wait. What a beautiful thought. No more pain? Oh, picture the world as we travel. No matter what we encounter, there will be no more pain ever. Never suffering, never enduring. But that's not the world we live in.
Physical pain is so great. It's just pure, I hurt. But you also know that there's steps. There's steps that it gets better. Physical pain, we do surgeries or we give you this medication and it goes away or it subsides or it gets better. But with the mental anguish and the guilt, there's a lot of pain associated with it. There's not a step-by-step process to get better. It just becomes overwhelming. The mental pain and just the spiritual pain is a big process of getting through that. No matter how healthy you get again, how much you get your physical life back, that'll always be a battle.
My own father was a physician who was in the Navy in World War II. He had a lot of difficulties with his demons. He came from a generation who didn't talk about the war, and I think that there were things that happened to him that he never processed fully. There had been a submarine that torpedoed a Japanese battleship, and it was sinking, and the commander of the ship ordered all officers on deck and everyone with ammunition and ordered them to shoot the Japanese soldiers in the water. And I think that, was something that was a great dissonance for a medical person, to be a healer and then to be asked to shoot an unarmed person in the water. And there's horrible things that war has, that these are stories that they didn't want to talk about. So in some ways, I feel like I can process some of that stuff, with my own participation in this piece.
It's an honor to be the guest speaker at today's Dine for the Troops fundraiser for the Independence Fund. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm a U.S. Navy doctor, and I treated wounded Marines in and around Fallujah in 2003 and 2004. There's a lot of stories I could tell about how our troops are doing over there, but there's one story in particular that I'm thinking of today. Lance Corporal
DeMarcus Brown. He had come into us with a split lip that had been cut by shrapnel, and I stitched him up. It's the kind of thing that we like to do. It's pretty easy, and nobody's going home to a life of rehab or something. And he was 19, and during the whole time, he was pretty funny. He told this one joke that I really can't tell right now, but you'll have to take my word for it. It was pretty funny. And in the middle of all this insanity, I found myself really surprised at how much humor he had in him. And I stitched him up and he went back, keep doing his job. 2 days later, I heard traffic over the radio that he and two others had breached a house in Fallujah with an insurgent with an AK-47 and fragmentation grenades. I wished he hadn't gone in there. I wish that I wasn't the medic in charge, but I was, and that's what I had been trained to do. By the time they got to the forward aid station, he had lost a lot of blood, and we went into a pretty extreme mode, just trying to save him, stabilize him. There's a lot of fear in Iraq. Fear of dying, fear of the unknown, fear of getting shot. But inside you wells up this other fear, this fear of failing. It's failing yourself, failing your team, failing this young man who is looking up at you so expectantly. And then suddenly, he lost blood pressure. One lung collapsed, and then the other, and we lost him. Lance Corporal DeMarcus Brown died that day on the table. I'm sorry. I've told this story so many times. It was a few years ago, but I don't know.
I play a shaman-like character, an ethereal being that ushers people through transition from death into the afterlife.
I play a slave that has been freed in the time of the Civil War, who searches for his family and trying to find himself. My family dynamic was really important, and actually more important in my life than I realized, especially coming to understand this play and understand my roles in the play. I'm the person who everyone comes to for support, for sustainability. Even with the spirit character, I'm in a way a spirit to her. I don't let her give up. I'm the caregiver. I guess that's just in me. It's in my nature.
Dear Mr. Blackburn, your brother is buried 5 miles east of Vicksburg in an orchard near the railroad. His grave is under and to the left of the 4th apple tree in the 3rd row of trees.
I was sitting in a hotel in Blacksburg, Virginia, and DeMarcus Brown, the 22-year-old soldier lost on the battlefield, was buried 40 miles away from where I was. I had that full body flush of like, I need to go to the gravesite. What will come? What do you learn at a gravesite? We learned an awful lot about that soldier and what he meant to people. He was kind of an extraordinary guy. You know, he was the kind of kid who made a gray day bright. You know, and there's all that kind of resonance that happens from a life that's still there.
Yeah.
Emotionally,
I don't know. What do you think? You think you got? If you were, what if you were emotionally struggling? What would you do? Do you think?
I think there'd be a little bit, I'd try to disconnect
Try that.
from her.
Try that. Okay. When she finishes, yeah. Okay.
So I started getting so many letters from men from all over, and you know, even Claire Barton was getting letters from guys about this. And I've been doing some research, and I found some that, and I think you would be interested in what they were writing to her. Some comrade who, unlike me, was not permitted to return home to his family, but his body lay moldering in some cemetery in the South, or his bones lay bleaching on some battlefield far from home and friends. Despite his best efforts, these thoughts would come repeatedly into his mind during the day, unbidden, as he put it, and in spite of himself. But he also noted remarkably that, quote, I felt glad in entertaining them on such occasions. I had no desire to separate myself permanently from them.
Then you would say something.
Oh.
Like he inserted that it has actually nothing to do with the whole show. No, he inserted it and he's just like, I just liked it, so I'm just putting it in.
I just liked it.
Yeah.